Welcome to Take It from the Ironwoman. My name is Susanne Müller, your host and the Ironwoman. This podcast is about empowering yourself and others to make real changes in the world. You will hear from everyday, smart, sophisticated, hip people like you and me. Not everybody has to be an Ironwoman to impress the world. Together, we will learn from the sports and business leaders how you can become a more successful person as an entrepreneur or a leader. It's one step at a time, one day at a time. Take your steps now. Take your big steps now. Join me on this journey to success. Take it from the Ironwoman. We only have special guests, and today we go to early Thailand to my friend Troy. When I met Troy, from somebody I heard he's an actor. I was like, oh my God, a Hollywood star. Then he's a yoga teacher. And now he and I, we do coaching. Troy, maybe you introduce yourself and give us a glimpse into your life. What can we learn from you? What's happening in your life?
Well, that's a big question. I don't know what anyone can learn from me, but I hope there'll be some positive nugget of a takeaway here. Certainly not a Hollywood star. They joke about the A list and then the B list, et cetera. And then there's the D list. Really, I fell into acting, did a few gigs, a couple of films, some commercials, blah, blah, blah. Very much the F list. But it was just an adventure that came along. I did not go seeking it, at least consciously. I explored it. I gave it my all for a short time. And then it was like, no, I don't want to be associated with this industry for various reasons. It's a pretty sleazy business, really, on every level, on many levels, not just the obvious one. I'd always had an interest in natural health and wellness in various capacities. Yes, I studied yoga, and that too I fell into. I think I was doing yoga at a yoga studio and the teacher wasn't available. And I was like a regular student. I was asked to step in. That's the way I started teaching. That ultimately led to training in yoga, and then actually, along with my partner, opening a global yoga events business, yoga teacher trainings, that kind of things. That was a big chunk of my life as well.
You say you fell into this. Tell us about the acting. Were you always interested in that? You fell into it. How does a person fall into it? Maybe we need to look for those signs. The listeners are always curious. What are the signs that we need to be conscious of?
It may well be that I fall into things because I'm not watching the signs. My head might be in the clouds and I'm not looking down and I just stumble into the nearest ditch. Well, in the case of acting, I was living in Thailand. I've always had an interest in the theatrical. I would say I'm a very expressive person. I like to engage in humorous banter, these kinds of things. I have brushed up against it at various times in my life for various reasons, because I sort of fit the type. But as far as actually getting into acting, Oliver Stone was filming a big movie in Thailand at the time. I met some of the actors on it. And I was also doing some writing for a local travel magazine. I talked to the editor at some point and said, it'd be kind of cool just to be an extra on a set or something, just because I'd like to see how movies are made. Oliver Stone is my all-time favorite director. There was a little extra glow there. He introduced me to a local director and movie maker in Thailand. Suddenly that guy had an opportunity for me to do this low budget horror movie, which was an interesting learning experience. It was kind of like a film school. And from there, I sort of caught the acting bug and went for it again for a short period of time. But I gave it everything I had for that time. And then I just realized, oh, this is probably too little, too late. And it's a really long haul thing. And if you get any degree of success with it, it's akin to winning the lottery. The ads are astronomical.
When I'm listening to you, it's being at the right time with the right people. That's how things fall into place. And now let's continue with the yoga and the coaching falling into place.
Sure. That's one way things fall into place. But my own approach to life has historically been to just respond to what's in front of me rather than being particularly ambitious or focused or driving towards a goal. I realize in the work that my coachees tend to do, and to a degree, the whole nature of coaching is to help people move towards, if not achieve their goals. That's not actually been my approach. I'm just sort of like a tourist in this world. I'm walking along and I'm exploring what's interesting. And if something pops up, I'm going to trust that that's what I'm supposed to be with, engage with, etc. at that time. Just to be clear.
I like that. We're all tourists on this globe.
Well, again, potentially. I think some people are more invested. Some people are here on missions. There's all kinds of different reasons that we're here, whatever those are. But my own take is I see it as a very transitory place. I'm just passing through. It's an odd place to get hung up or attached. I'm trying to adhere to my integrity and the things that I think are most important, very fundamental: kindness, respect, love, all of that. But at the same time, again, I'm just happy to be walking through the zoo, knowing that it'll be over soon enough. And it's not particularly important what I do, or honestly, what most people do, as I see it.
But now you're an executive coach, and it seems like as a coach, you're also giving back to the others. So how does that fall into place? And for the listeners, it's usually when people are coaches, that you bring something to the table that is unique to you, that's your niche. Or like for me, I come from the airline business. So you have that. Everybody brings something different.
That's certainly true. And there's a broad field there that's involved with that. In other words, everyone is going to bring something unique because of the combination of elements that come together to create what we are. However, in what I will call pure coaching, all you need to do is to know how to evoke the awareness in the other person and support them in a way that's effective in whatever they're after, whether it's driving towards a very specific goal or just becoming more self-aware or whatever. So in that sense, you don't really need to have any background in anything in particular to coach. You just have to know how to engage in the dynamic of coaching. I think this is a real misconception. Yeah. Very often, because most people, especially in business coaching, come from a business background. And most people, when they say they want to coach, they don't necessarily even know what a coach is. A coach is just like the new buzzword for a new and more effective way to tell people what to do and make sure that it gets done. They want a coach consultant. They want a mentor. And that's not necessarily wrong, but that's not actually what coaching is in its pure form. I know that's a bit of an aside, but I wanted to put that out there.
Totally agree with you.
Oh, yes. Well, it's one of my favorite subjects, having been in the coaching field now for a decade. I will get a little more specific here. I'll take it out of the abstract. I have lived a very unconventional life in many respects. I would even go so far as to say anti-establishment in many respects. And yet I am perceived, because I present as very conventional. So that allows me entrance into the kingdom. I get through the gates that way, but I'm radical in my thinking. I'm very relative to society. I'm not doing it just to be radical. It's just that when we are aligned with our true nature and the natural world, it is very, very different than conventional, consensual reality as we've agreed upon. So somewhat ironically, almost absurdly, I find myself in this realm of coaching business people and executives. And the one thing that I bring that is unique is the ability to bring things out of total left field. Saw all of the institutionalization and the conditioning that most people in that realm have brought. It's not necessarily wrong or bad, but I don't have it. But I've explored totally different realms. And yet I have the ability to have a foot in each camp. I'm well versed in this, and I at least have the ability to come into the realm of business and convention and worldly ambition, achievement, all of these kinds of things that my clients tend to be steeped in, and present in a way that is acceptable and digestible to them. Have you considered this? What do you think about that? Things that would probably not come up in the course of their day-to-day lives because they're in the mainstream.
I couldn't agree more with you. They also say if you have a team, again, we talk about business, but I think it's in life anyway, in your networking group, if you have always the same people, creativity will not be as big or voluminous or whatever word we want to use as if you have a diverse team. So if you have a coach that looks the same, speaks the same, is the same as you, then you get only the same out of this. But if you have somebody like you and me, you might get on a different journey.
Absolutely. What comes to mind is the famous Einstein quote, of which there are many, and I don't know it exactly, so I will paraphrase, but we are not going to solve problems from the same level of consciousness that created them. And I even see this in the realm of coaches and coachees in the business world in particular. A lot of coaches either are living the same lifestyle more or less as their clients or aspiring to live that kind of lifestyle. And so when you really break it down, I just want to put this out there for fun, but also so that it may serve people. When you wake up to the artificiality of an alarm clock, meaning outside of the normal cycles and rhythms of nature, when you would naturally awaken and you ingest a liquid stimulant into your body and you eat processed food and you're under fluorescent lights and you're getting in a metal object furling at literally dangerous speeds, ultimately, because any deviation, your vehicle would crash and cause you injury. You sort of slam into this like chaos of activity. By 9 a.m, you're already so out of sync with the flow that your whole life has to be lived in your head or at a distance or something, because again, we're not living according to our true nature, which is very, very different than we've structured the world. And the business world epitomizes that living outside of, we could call it many things, natural law, for instance. And so I have something at least to suggest. And there's an enormous amount of humility that comes out of this. I really don't ultimately know what your path is supposed to be as like a client. I have a sense of what it's like to be attuned because I've spent a lot of time in those realms and most of my clients haven't. But who's to say this is not supposed to be part of your journey? I'm going to trust that it is. So I'm not here to like push some agenda on you, but I'm definitely inviting you into the possibility in a way, again, that you're receptive to expand the breadth and depth of your being beyond the presenting issue, which could be, I want to improve my sales 20% in Q4 this year. It's like, okay. But then when we really get into it, it's like, what do you really want? The deeper levels is I want to feel a sense of accomplishment and fulfillment and security and movement and expansion and achievement. And then, okay, great. Now let's go even deeper. Why are those impulses in you? And ultimately, all of this stuff gets to a spiritual level as I see it.
And tell us, what is the name of your coaching company?
Wisdom Warrior Coaching. That's my personal private coaching company. And then I work for a variety of other organizations as well.
How come that name?
Well, it has a very special personal meaning to me based on an epiphany I had and working with a Native American elder whose teaching involved the distinction between being a warrior in this world and a soldier. A warrior is brave, a warrior is open-hearted, a warrior is generous, a warrior travels light because they trust that they will have what they need, et cetera, et cetera. A soldier is guarded, a soldier is an us and them. A soldier is self-protective, all of these things. We're playing with semantics here, but it really struck me at the time and subsequently. So yeah, that's where the idea for the name came from. Be a warrior who is full of wisdom. You can't really be a true warrior unless you are wise. And then there's something inviting about this too. Hopefully people will either see it and go, what is this guy, ex-military, and he's going to, whatever. It's a filter. And yet when you get into it, and explore it, it's like, okay, so what is wisdom? Because wisdom, you can't have wisdom without love. That's not true wisdom. That's just some kind of heady idea. And you can't have love without wisdom, because love in and of itself is the wisdom of the heart. And so it's like, how do you live out of your heart and your soul with courage and bravery and openness and surrender in life? That's at least part of what that title is. There's the possibility of transformation, and that's what I'm always inviting people into and hopefully moving into. So on the idea of transformation, this word gets bandied about a lot in business, as does leadership, and that's another. I guess
another topic.
It's perhaps it's problematic for me in various ways because I'll just start with transformation. It's used very lightly. True transformation to me involves a really radical waking up. Moving out of the matrix. Otherwise, what is happening, and what tends to happen most of the time, is rearranging the furniture, putting lipstick on a pig, creating a little better feng shui, and calling it transformation because there's a certain amount of growth and change. And I feel better as the coachee, and I feel better as the coach, and blah, blah, blah. But it's not really transformation because, especially in the business world, it's just business as usual. If transformation was actually occurring, business would not be, we would not have this radically imbalanced hyper-capitalist world that we have, where 66 human beings now own 90% of the wealth. Something is seriously wrong with that system. I believe the word transformation is sacred, and I only use it in that context for what it's worth. And now I'll just step off my soapbox for a moment, not because I don't want to stay here, but because I want to just sip my coffee while you talk.
I love that. Yes. And I agree with you. There's so many words that are overused. One of it is coaching, mindfulness, wisdom, transformation, and leadership. It's
all
just those words are so big. We don't have a clear definition, and everybody can mold it their way. And everybody is a leader. I would say everybody is the CEO of their own life. Once you move out your parents' house, you are responsible. So I call that a leader. And maybe not everybody agrees with me, but we have to go through life. And I consider that as a leader. Some people step up a little more and some people not.
I totally relate to that perspective and I honor it. And then just to play the devil's advocate here, I might present something else. Especially in the coaching world and in the business world, one is inundated by this word, leadership, 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 leadership. Okay, on the one hand, yes, it's great that we have more conscious leaders. Absolutely, we need more conscious leaders. But more specifically, what I think is we need less leaders in the typical sense, not in the sense that you're using, less leaders, but better leaders. One of the reasons that it's problematic for me is with the emphasis on leadership, the subtext is if you're not a leader, you are lesser. And really what we need is better leaders and less of them trying to be, because it's about money and power for the most part. Not only there are sincere people trying to do good work in the world, and there's different approaches to leadership. There's the follow me, I'm right behind you kind. And then there's let's charge ahead and I'll be out front. But we need better followers in the best sense. People that recognize the integrity and the quality of a leader and are willing to get behind them, and they know how to surrender and yet still remain autonomous so they can support and hold accountable that leader. That's what the world needs more of, as I see. It's very much like the word disruptor. Oh, they're a disruptor. Really? Is there not enough disruption in this world? We need more harmonizers. We need people that align with their highest selves, their better angels, and know how to harmonize. I guess the last thing I'll say about it, the reason that it's bandied about so much, this word, it's about money. That's where most of the money is in coaching. Most of the money in the coaching industry that is paid to coaches on the behalf of a coachee comes from companies who are investing in their quote unquote leaders. So you happen to play to that, which you could argue, is that really an integrity, or is that about marketing or whatever? And then again, in that world, it's like, it's not enough just to lead your little team. You've got to like increase your rank. You got to move up. It's not enough just to have a small entrepreneurial boutique enterprise. You got to go to scale. And if you go to scale, what are you doing? Not driving this towards, an IPO. It's just, again, it's hyper capitalism. It's capitalism run amok. And it's resulted in 66 people owning almost all of the Earth's resources. Tell me, is that working? Is that actually working?
No, it's not. It's not. It's not. I'm with you. What do you do when you don't work?
I play, I rest, I like to laugh, I like to joke around a lot about life. I like to play guitar. Really, I'm a pretty radical hippie with short hair, essentially. The things that I enjoy. Yesterday, I went to ecstatic dance and just lost myself in the radical expression of my body, and went out and had some delicious vegan food out in the country and took my time, a 2-hour lunch. And this is, again, how humans are meant to live for the most part. And the closer I live to that, the healthier I am, the more I have to offer others.
Let's finish on this high note. And I envision that 2-hour lunch with vegan food.
Thank you.
A conversation with a hippie with short hair. What are you taking away from this lovely and lively conversation? Take it from the Iron Woman. We have episodes every Monday with cool guests that you can learn from, engage with, ask questions, be part of their journey, chime in every single week. And don't forget to download or get the book, Take It From the Iron Woman, Global Business Coaching with Sports Parallels. Thank you for your support. Don't forget to follow us on YouTube,